All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we are going to be working on diagramming sentences, but this time we are including our adjectives. So far, when we've diagrammed sentences, we've focused on finding our subjects as well as our verb or verb phrases. We are still going to be doing that with our sentences here, but now we are also going to learn how to include our adjectives into our sentence frames. Now, when we have talked about diagramming, we talk about finding the subject of our sentence. That is going to be the who or what our sentence is about. And we've also talked about finding either our verb or verb phrases. Remember, our verbs can be either action verbs or state of being verbs. And our verb phrases are going to include helping verbs as well as our action verb that works along with it. Anytime you're not sure if a word is a helping verb, please use your grammar workbook, whether you're looking at our helping verbs pages at the very beginning of our book in the verb section, or going to the glossary and looking up verbs, and you will find a list of helping verbs as a chart in the glossary pages. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this sentence that is right here, and these are sentences that we can actually find in our homework page for tonight. We are going to begin by reading the sentence. So our sentence says, 5 fish have succeeded. After I have read my sentence, I'm going to go ahead and mark the sentence. Remember, anytime our workbook asks us to mark the sentence, we're going to begin by underlining our subject one time. We will underline our verb or verb phrase 2 times, and then we are going to draw a line to separate the subject from the predicate of our sentence. So our sentence says, one more time, 5 fish have succeeded. What have succeeded? Fish, so that is my subject. I underline that once. What did the fish do? Have succeeded. That is my verb phrase. Have is my helping verb. Succeeded is the action verb in the sentence. And now I simply draw a line between the two things to separate it. Now that I have marked my sentence, I can go ahead and begin taking a look and determining whether I'm going to use sentence frame 1, sentence frame 2, or sentence frame 3. At this point in time, since I have just one subject and one verb phrase, I can use sentence frame 1. So I'm going to draw my horizontal line. I'm going to draw my vertical line in between, making sure it drags out. And then now I can go ahead and fill out my information. Remember, in my sentence frame, on the left side, I will always write my subject information. So fish is going to be written on the left side exactly as I see it in my sentence. And then have succeeded will be written on the right side because that is where all of our predicate information is going to go. Now, here's our newest step. When we are diagramming adjectives, underneath whatever noun, pronoun, or adjective is being described by an adjective, I'm going to draw a slanted line right underneath the word that's going to give the adjective. And then on this line, I'm going to write the adjective. So in this case, 5 is my adjective. And so I am going to go ahead and write it exactly as I see it in my sentence with a capital letter. Now, if you recall, anytime that we diagram, I ask you guys to leave yourself some wiggle room underneath because there may be things that we're going to be writing underneath later on. And so here's the deal. Here's where we are going to go ahead and write our sentence completely in the sentence frame. Let's take a look at this next sentence. This next sentence says, Reese and the loud boy helped. So I always begin by reading my sentence. Next, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to mark my sentence. So who helped? Reese and the boy. So that is my subject of my sentence. Now I need to find my verb or verb phrase. What did Reese and the boy do? They helped. So this time around, I only have an action verb in my sentence. Now I can draw my line to separate my subject from my predicate. Now that I have my subject and my predicate marked up in my sentence, I can now try and find any adjectives because I have more than one subject here. And so I see that loud is describing boy, as well as the article adjective the. So when I draw my sentence frame, I'm going to need to make sure I leave room so that I can include both of those adjectives underneath the noun boy. So now I need to decide if I'm going to use sentence frame 1, sentence frame 2, or sentence frame 3. Remember, sentence frame 1 is for one subject, one predicate. Sentence frame 2 is for a compound subject with one predicate. And then sentence frame 3 is one subject with a compound predicate. So in this instance, I need to use sentence frame 2 because I have two subjects. So I'm going to draw my frame. Remember, I need to draw my parallel lines, leaving some wiggle room, meeting together at a point in a triangle with my dotted line. So I'm going to include my conjunction. I'm going to draw my vertical line and then my horizontal line. Now I can go ahead and fill out my information. So on the right side, I am going to write Reese at the top because it is the first subject that appears in my sentence, and I'm going to write it exactly as I see it there. My second subject is boy, that is the noun. Now, on my little tippy top or the little rooftop, I'm going to include and because that is the joining word, my conjunction that is joining them. And then on the right side, I am going to write helped because that is the action verb taking place in the sentence. Now, our new step, I'm going to include my adjectives. And when I look at my sentence, when I marked it, only boy had adjectives and it had two adjectives. So I need to draw two diagonal lines. The first adjective is the article adjective the, and then the second adjective is the adjective loud, which tells us what kind of boy. And so here, now I have my subjects, my predicates, as well as my adjectives all labeled in our sentence. Let's take a look at this sentence. We're still doing the same thing, reading, marking our sentence, and then diagramming. So our sentence says, a bright, colorful rainbow appeared. So I got to start off by identifying my subject and my predicate. So what appeared? Rainbow, because that is the noun. What did the rainbow do? It appeared. So I have my action verb marked. And now I draw my line to separate my subject from my predicate. So I need to look now for any adjectives. Do I have adjectives describing rainbow? I sure do. It is a colorful, bright rainbow, and then I also have the article adjective a. So now that I've done all of those steps, now I can determine which sentence frame I'm going to use, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. And when I look at my marked sentence, I notice I have one subject, one predicate, which means I'm using sentence frame 1. So I'm going to draw my sentence frame, my horizontal line, followed by my vertical line. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill out my information in my sentence. So on the left side of my sentence frame, I will always be writing my subject information. And in this case, my subject is rainbow. And I have 3 adjectives describing rainbow, so I'm going to draw 3 diagonal lines. Remember, I need to make sure I have enough room for these diagonal lines, and I'm going to write my adjectives in the order they show up in my sentence. So my first adjective is an article adjective, which is a, and I'm going to capitalize it because that's how it shows up in my sentence. My second adjective is bright. I'm going to include it here, and my final adjective is the word colorful. Now that I have my subject side all filled out, now I can go to the right side of my frame. Remember, right side of our frame is where we are going to be writing all of our predicate information. And in this case, it is appeared. So this is just a simple review of what we discussed today. Take a look carefully at the sentences that you have left on your homework worksheet if you need to review any of the resources that are available for you on Schoology.